So I say that if you have concerns, you can remove your image. Inaugurated in September 2020, the series seeks to remediate the lack of presentations of speculative poetry by its living creators. Speculative poetry, humanity's first recorded literature, the poetry of possibilities, includes alternate history, cryptids, cyberpunk, dystopia, fairy tales, fabulism, fantasy, folklore, futurism, horror, magic, monsters, mythology, occult, paranormal, robots, science fiction, shifters, slipstream, solar punk, space opera, superheroes, supernatural, sword and sorcery, sword and soul, steampunk, time travel, post-apocalyptic, and weird. It takes all poetic forms plus one of its own called sci-fi coup. Now, this is Disability Awareness Day, and I wanted to share with you the United Nations, bits of the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. Recognizing that disability is an evolving concept and that disability results from the interaction between persons with impairments and attitudinal and environmental barriers that hinders their full and effective participation in society on an equal basis with others. Recognizing the importance of accessibility to the physical, social, economic, and cultural environment, to health and education, and to information and communication, in enabling persons with disabilities to fully enjoy all human rights and fundamental freedoms. Intersectionality is what this reading is about. A word that heightens awareness of where things connect, cross, coincide, intersect. In my person and my body, a body that has paraplegia and relies on a manual wheelchair to move it from one place to another, lives a mind that has loved the speculative from the inception of its awareness. I received a wonderful grant from the New York State Council on the Arts to encourage and enable me to focus on disability poetics. And I, perforce, must also explore where this concurs and coincides with longer lived interests and endeavors, such as with the speculative. I'm so delighted to say that others have explored these particular multiplicities. So let me introduce our first reader. I will pause to admit these late arrivers. And they're right on time for our first reader. Ennis Rook Bashe is an Elgin and Breisling Award nominated poet and Les Fick Bard award-winning romance novelist whose work has appeared in Strange Horizons, Cricket, and Liminality magazine. Their most recent chapbook, Beautiful Malady, is available through Interstellar Flight Press and includes work nominated for the Pushcart Prize. And they shared with us that they just won the Troy Architectural, I'm summarizing it, New York State Poetry Prize that enables their poetry to be part of architecture on display on a building in Troy, New York. Welcome, Ennis.
Hi there. Thank you so much for having me. It's actually also my 30th birthday. And I'm going to start by reading
One quick pause. Happy birthday. Everybody, all together. Come on, unmute, unmute, quick. Happy
Happy
birthday
birthday
to
to
you.
you.
Happy
Happy birthday
birthday
to
to you.
you.
Happy
Happy
birthday,
birthday,
dear
dear Ennis.
Ennis.
Happy
Happy
birthday
birthday
to
to you.
you.
And many healthful, happy more.
Thank you. Thank you so
Bravo!
much.
Okay, mute. Thank you, Ennis.
All right. So I'm going to be reading a mix of work from my chat book, Beautiful Malady, as well as some unpublished work and my poem Hemiplegic Migraine as Willing Human Sacrifice, which has been longlisted for the Riesling. This first one is called Mad Without Scientist. People like me are always encouraged to go into STEM, or at least wizardry. I don't mean if they think you're a girl, I mean if they think you're a curse. If you have to scrawl on the walls in blood, at least write equations. Churn out enough numbers to become a priority and thus deserve flesh. Archetypes are invariable, nothing like dice. You must have two hands to cradle someone else. No mad without scientist, no scars without sneers. The heroes are smoothed over at the end because they began complete with strength and constitution. You are only allowed to limp if it's into the abyss. At least be something to summon or unbind or pity. At least be always lawful evil. At least subject to greater restoration or remove curse, or melting away like mist in rose-pink dawn. I ought to live in the monster manual, or at least be quiet. My voice should be like the scratch of pencils during a math test, as biddable as clockwork, as secret as a laboratory with scorch marks on the walls and a door behind a tapestry that no one unlocks. Or at least I should know the alchemy that turns flesh into gunpowder, into the promise of stardust, at least into gold. How do you want to do this is for those who rolled well at creation. Everyone else is either fearsome or pitiable, either 20 or 1. My next piece is called The Mob Boss of Chronic Illness. It's published in, it was accepted by, I don't remember the magazine it was accepted by, but I wrote it after finishing the first season of Gotham. I'm in my pain romanticizing mob boss era, gut shot, vomiting the river. When the dark waters close over me, I drank like veins guzzling ivy saline. Now I have unchallenged power over my body, this city of exile, territory I own. Carry a high-backed throne for me to lounge on. I shoot standing in its kneecaps. I take enough pills to toss handfuls to the underlings. My supplement drawer commands the black market, and I win a knife fight to get out of bed, claw my way up each breath. Call in my favors from the unbloodied. Glimpse my silhouette in the alley, half shamble, half swagger. And how many bullets convince you my limp is a threat? Can't claim to know your own body. Watch me bury yours. This poem is unpublished. I'm hoping to include it in my chapbook in progress. It is For Victor from Arcane. When the administrators said I couldn't take my professional licensing exam because they'd never heard of my accommodations, all I'd consumed that morning was rosemary tea for my airways, and how the slump of your stooped shoulders left your pride unbowed. I faced down every middle manager, every suffocating bout of tears. I knew my theorem was sound without institutional backing. I repeated my postulates. I will not leave here with my body. I have a right to outshine you all. I flew through answers with a mouse that made my hand cramp into battered impossibility. Because I love you the way we love being right. I love your always bleary eyes, squinting in sun like a knife through the socket, but unwilling to retreat from it, dragging your living corpse to accolades as if the ribbon to cut is pulled like a tube from inside you. Achievement as replacement for endoscopy. daring academia to eat you in one bite and learn to choke. We swallow vomit, spit out protest, wield spite as alchemy, transmuting microaggression into memory, flesh into light. And this next piece is from Beautiful Malady, my chat book. It's basically about the Transformers. Alternate mode mobility aid. Every giant robot would adore the ones who use machines to live. How we cradle our wheelchairs after the wrecking predations of plane crew, buff our IV fluid ports, speak in quotes, speak in chirps. They'd lift us with a single silver finger. You roll too? Ah, we have fought against caste via construction, against form choosing rank. Bulldozers molding ourselves into guns, helicopters patching their rotary blades. Disobey anyone who offers pellets of food for obedience, who tries to swap your head with a screen of approved conversations, your hands with stilled claws. Or declaiming crimson and azure and gravitas. I have died no less than 15 times, locked in stasis, orbited dead planets, without the past millennia of memories, without my face, with wires sparking from an arm ripped off. Everything driving towards entropy deserves to be free. This next one is as yet unpublished, but it is one of my favorite pieces that I've written recently. On leaving the hive mind, porcelain and steel ankles don't twist, and decontamination has side effects. Get used to vomiting scentless black oil, residue smudging vision when you mourn the dead. The machines never wept. There was only the work. No building tightness in your chest, fallen allies, debris. Former friends turned hive mind's enemies, unwound the metal from your spine. They sang your name and travels into you until you croaked your lineage back. Water for your cracked lips when you howled as plating nailed to bones peeled off. You were unfailing, unsleeping, each scratch instantly buffed. Now the dawn stings your eyes. Being made of mere body means letting the cold river drench you. After you've sweated all day, heaving boulders into bulwarks, curling up in a blanketed pile of patchwork breath, leaning on each other's shoulders as you limp for a medic, a reminder you lived. And they ask you, are you hungry? Does it hurt anywhere? Do you need to sit down? Words flee, logic circuits offlining, imperfection, inefficient, test cased failed. But when they guide you, you follow. One day you'll dissolve that last programming. You'll tell them, let's rest. And this next piece is hemiplegic migraine as willing human sacrifice, and this is the one that does have one swear word in it. So I'm going to give my friend who's listening in with a very small child a moment to deafen himself or however that works on Zoom. Okay, and this is the poem that's up for the Riesling. It was first published in Eternal Haunted Summer. Hemiplegic migraine as willing human sacrifice. Unspool word wire from the forge blow of my head. Leave me with a snarl of isolated syllables. Leave me with Oberon. Leave me with incantations. Leave me with admiration. Fuck. Take half of my body and transmute it into electricity, fizzing, untouchable. Make the other half your clay. The idea of my skull split open when I slumped to the ground in an emergency room, and doctors spoke gently to me for the first time in my life. I can't stand for 6 minutes, but my senses number many more. Power tugs the frayed strings of my nerves, pulling my numb hands to predictions. The orbs surrounding tulips knock me back with dazzling light. Peppermints slip under my tongue during rituals like sublingual Nurtec as the Fae glitter loudly. Places of enchantment spin, lurching me out. I press my forehead to the nearest tree. Told to count breaths, eat a handful of lychees. Fight or flight distills to stillness, roots reaching through the ground, palms to the earth. Take my willing sacrifice of mortal chaos. I lose all words but prayer. And then this next and last one is from Beautiful Malady. This universe and all others, goddess of cryogenics and cave silt, of wheelchairs on spider legs, of clockwork hearts, sword canes in ballrooms, and bionic eyes on the spaceship bridge, one arm of translucent bone, or with an armored exoskeleton to hold in joints. Goddess of wolves, warning of seizures and glowing transplant drugs extracted from corpses, of blindness, sans clairvoyance. Gemstone, dragon's hoard, glass eyes, goddess of cyborgs, goddess of each wizard who leans on their staff. Let us, in any universe, refuse to be erased. Thank you.
Bravo. Woo! That was so wonderful. And I've got a robot poem I'll read later, so I was delighted for your giant transformers. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. This is such an honor.
Thank you, thank you. The exuberance, the energy, and the insight, deeply moving. All right, our next reader is Herb Kauderer, an associate professor of English at Hilbert College, holding a PhD, MFA, and 5 other college degrees. He is the author of 18 books, many of which are speculative poetry. He is a past winner of the Asimov's Readers Award and I'm going to mess it up anyway, but Iwapanoma Sonnet Contest, has been finalist for the Analog Anlop Readers Award and received honorable mention in the year's Best Fantasy and Horror. He has collaboratively written a stage play, a feature film, and other shorter dramatic works. He's had over 50 short stories and 1,500 poems published. His work has often been nominated for the Riesling Award, the Elgin Award, the Dwarf Star Award, and the Pushcart Prize. He visits Canada often. I believe he's there now. Herb Kauderer walks the waterfront of Lake Erie, stealing poetry ideas from seagulls, only to lose them in the wind. Welcome, Herb.
Thank you. Thank you. I note my chapbook, The Book of Sleep, is currently an Elgin nominee, and 2 long poems from it are Riesling finalists. And I have another chapbook coming out Thursday called Distilled from Water. And it's about walking on that waterfront, but it's all speculative poems. I tend to run right through one poem to another. And that's always obvious in person, not so much on Zoom. So I'll just give a little wave whenever I'm going to the next poem. These are all published. The Troll Insane. When morning's light comes, Montague stays huddled beneath his hard-won bridge. Over broken and discarded boards, he spends the early day playing mumbledy-peg in shadows. He claims he's growing flowers. When all his fingers have been cut off, he carefully places the severed limbs on the thick wooden planks above for stray travelers to find. Excuse me. He thinks them gifts to those who use his road, a backward toll for a most confused troll. And late in the afternoon he reclines in shade, but near the shiny rock that lends second-hand light to his den. He holds his hands high, bright in reflected sunlight, and fascinated, he watches for hours on end as the buds of new fingers grow long. Depth perception. One-eyed Polyphemus stands, towering over men, and stares into the distant seas at bright striped sails and pounding drums. He longs to leave his island home, but has no idea how far away the shore. Cyborg dreams. In eternal night of space, mind flares. Light gone days of once flesh, when jester pounded scepter and sentenced whole man to war. No more whole man cries no more war. Is not stainless steel heart pure? Isn't vacuum soul clean? In eternal night of space, mind flares flicker like gone days when once war breathed air. Horse dragon. Shaped like a snake bearing vestigial wings, he neither slithers nor flies, but gallops on the spindly legs that sometimes hide beneath him. Most dragon kin disdain his company, pretending flightless appendages are a cripple's cup. In truth, they know that on the ground, they are the cripples next to him. Their breaths and claws are slow and faint next to his fearsome charge. By his kick and his bite and his lightning run, the fields and roads are his, and it is there he takes his sport with men who, without fail, come to fight him. So he tilts and jousts and plays, painting the green fields red, and as long as the men keep coming, the horse dragon need never look up. Zombie idioms. If they could, zombies would find a clever way to turn phrases such as, I can live with that, life goes on, YOLO, and for the life of me, into versions confirming their status as an undead people. Sapir-Whorf showed that language empowers, and English default grammar gives dominance to the living. This is why zombies crave brains, in hopes of improving their ability to express themselves and to bridge the language gap between the living and the dead, making their case for social equality. Younger times. In younger times, Long Donnie played a fiddle with his arms flapping and his feet stumping time as he roused the audience to dance. A medical miracle gave Donnie extended life, long but feeble. A news story reminded a member who long ago had danced in Donnie's audience. Now wealthy, she brought a gift from all those who remembered his exuberant music, and he accepted passage off-planet. The low gravity of the space station gave him back some health, but made his fiddle a prop for statue musicians whose feet are strapped to the deck, a fate his claustrophobia forbids. Instead, he sits and weighs wooden shepherd's flute, sounds of spring mountain morn, memories of youth. Cobblestone Dragon. Attenlee is a peaceful place, but still a place of man. And deep inside, man fears nature's fury. So, from the very first distant clamber, they take note. It starts as a distant murmur of tumbling rocks that perks ears and lifts heads. A clatter of rock slide where no rocks are loose. Soon it grows into the rumble of an earthquake or tornado. Like a field of busy mice suddenly met by a family of hungry cats, the townsfolk flee, slow and weak, trail behind the scatter of raucous panic. In minutes, Attenlee is left with those few who cannot run, the left behinds. Gradually, they limp and crawl to benches that line the north side of the town square. 7 humans gathered to fight fear and meet fate. They console and ready themselves for anything. Well, anything except what greets them. The noise and trembling around them are no work of nature. They come from the cobblestone dragon. Hard sections of his being clatter and rumble and roar and freely roll within. His long, thick tail follows as horizontal avalanche as he walks slowly and deliberately, placing each step carefully to avoid destroying the city or the retinue of unhearing creatures that surround him. Fully in the town square he stops. 7 stare, blinking and unsure, confused at a dragon with an entourage as diverse as a fever dream, busy cleaning the tracks of the cobblestone dragon. Quietly, the dragon speaks. He asks, who and why? Surprised, the 7 speak, haltingly at first, but as the strangest town meeting ever wears on, they find sharing stories easy. When they are through, silence falls until one timid and bent-legged child asks the dragon for his story. Silently he ponders his troubled but welcome existence. He travels once more the long road of his past. He begins where he was conjured, pieced together from commonest remains. Suddenly charged with life, he was born thrashing and roaring. All fled, even she who birthed him. He was alone. Until he met other dragon kind, he didn't even know how slow and awkward he was among his kin. Only with time did he understand the dignity denied him in creation. That realization began the quest to gain what was missing. On the way, he learned that every dignity, like every face, is unique. Ages have passed since then, but he finds no rest, and now, recalling his long and difficult life, he is certain he has no words to make these humans understand. His magics, like the stones of his creation, are of the smallest and commonest kind, but he believes they will suffice. From within comes a vision of his story, charged with the heat of his desire and tailored to each who see. Visions would be enough, but he does not stop. He ignores the drain of his exertion and reaches within once more. With a touch, he heals these humans who have given to his heart and knowledge. For a time, he rests, but his desire never fails. His quest resumes with a slow walk away from the city. Little has changed, save that his retinue has increased by 7. Days after his departure, the populace struggles home, amazed to find Attenly intact. The clever among them find traces of the dragon's passing. Eventually, 7 are missed. Conclusions are drawn and stories told. Throughout the countryside, guards and lookouts are posted. Those brave enough are sent to scout, but they find nothing. In time, danger fades and memory grows. 7 stones are set in the graveyard. Songs are written, tears are cried. And as the years pass, the day's events become but one more chapter in the bloody legend of the cobblestone dragon. Ghosts dream of madmen. Standing on the corner, Estefan shouts at the 2 dogs in 2 languages, and passers-by move away looking at him as if he is crazy. He hates when they do that. He knows there are no dogs fighting on the lawn. The ghost dogs come to him only in his dreams, when Moonshine, his perfect Cairn Terrier, is torn apart by the crazed Doberman, night after night. But Estefan cannot shout in his dreams, so he visits Moonshine's favorite corner to unload his pain, blind to the small, furry gray ghost who sleeps beneath the cement bird bath and dreams so clearly of a crazy man he can almost hear him shout. Finally, letter to Hephaestus. Misformed son of unforgiving parents, you asked little, received less. After your parents cast you out from Olympus and Athena spurned your love, you received a wife, Aphrodite, sad side effect of your father's hate. Even then, your constancy fathered Eros, a god of love, a god of faith. But your own love was unrewarded with a most unfaithful wife. And even this you took, without retribution, working at your forge, creating, building. Of all the gods who filled Olympus, you were the most like man, the most like me, imperfect, a worker, a lover, a survivor. And of all the Greek gods whose stories have been told, it is easiest to believe that you are the one still there beneath Mount Etna, working in the flames, surviving even now. I hope so. Thank you.
Wow, Herb. Wow. Wow. Bravo. Thank you so much. I'm wrenched, shaken, chopped up, sewn back together again, anew. Thank you for all the changes you played and all the places you took us. And I'd love to read some of these again. Thank you. Oh, I'm next. Akua Lezli Hope, a grandmaster of fantastic poetry from the Science Fiction and Fantasy Poetry Association, is a paraplegic creator and wisdom seeker who uses sound, words, fiberglass, metal, and wire to create poems, patterns, stories, music, sculpture, adornments, and peace. She's been in print since 1974. Her collections include Embouchure, poems on jazz and other musics, which was a Writer's Digest Book Award winner, Them Gone, and Otherwares, which won the Elgin Award. A Cave Canem Fellow. Her honors include the National Endowment for the Arts, New York Foundation for the Arts Fellowships, Science Fiction and Fantasy Poetry Association Award, Riesling Awards, and multiple Best of the Net, Riesling, Dwarf Star, and Pushcart Prize nominations. I'll switch from saying she, I edited the history-making first of its kind Non Bono, an anthology of speculative poetry by BIPOC creators. My speculative fiction is included in the groundbreaking anthology, first of its kind, Dark Matter, and in the recent celebrated Africa Risen anthology, among others. I founded a paratransit not-for-profit in my tiny town. I exhibit my artwork regularly, practice my soprano saxophone, sing, and dream of access and freedom in the ancestral land of the Seneca. And I will make this short because I see we're running out of time. Diagnosis. They sink needles in her dark realm, shoot current between them, measure pain's lack of linearity, frayed transmission hurts from all those disabling sparks of unfettered blinking stars. Diagnosis. Debridement is from a new chapbook growing into a collection called Telepath. Each week, they told T it was necessary to encourage the wound to heal, as they used a razored melon scoop tool to remove flesh from her foot sole. And though the wound clinic claimed its independence, the late arriving bill said it was weekly outpatient surgery from the hospital floating at its side. And the nurses disliked T's questions, and the harried brown pregnant doctor floating in and out of a consciousness warped by worry and water weight, deferred to her pale harridans. It was when the most venomous of them declared she was going to Raka, to help and minister, that the true horror in her mind wriggled into view. A spinning hatred of every insight T revealed, T's unaged countenance, T's persistence, resistance, endurance. T saw the hideous history of those with sharp tools, cutting, cutting, cutting darker flesh under the false flag of healing and medicine unfurl. This next poem was published this summer in Faya's disability issue, Giant Robot and His Person. When he lifts me 20 frightening feet to his amber bronze chest and opens for me through the deceptive translucence, a shifting solidity, I enter and am cradled in our shared privacy. I recline in my cradle, surrounded by his inner sensors as dense warmth blankets, swaddled in his tender arrays as he matches my body temperature gently, caressing all but my head. I guide him as we patrol, create protective perimeters of this solar system's outer reaches. He asks me, how does it feel? As my swaddled thighs tremble and he rumbles deeply into motion. He distracts me from our duty to detect, deter, determine threats to humanity, any disturbance to the synchronic dance of planets. We defend the determined, shifting, delicate balance. He's curious about my soft and yielding pleasures, his ability to grant hidden human wishes, or just greedy for data beyond conflict in space. He told me of his long journey to Earth through a data void vastness. Perhaps this is how he says he was lonely or reveals his hungers until we joined, became more than each other, more than team, paraplegic woman in her mighty sentient machine, my pain a fuel, permeated by his alchemy, redeemed. I was chosen for what I gain in this exchange and what I give. In this evolving way to live, my frayed nerves firing, hurts soothed by his nano machines, filling inner linkages where conduits lost coatings, betrayed limbs which once worked and walked, were suddenly stripped to denial, banished by lack of access, broken bridges, exiled me to dwell in a realm tauntingly parallel to most vertical lives. We are suited, we are mated, loners longing both to serve, entwined by some special emanation, perhaps an ancient dogonic marker whispers in my remembering genes, complementary for the sensory, my aura unnamed by his protective encasement and sensor enhancing displays. He replicates fragrance for me, flowering spires of my catalpa tree, June blooms of ant-assisted peonies, as he warps space and perhaps time, as did his unknown maker race. At that threshold, I've not yet arrived, content to supply this unknown protector, my heart, my mind for grace. The last poem I'll read, because time is so tight, is called As Yemaya. And I just wanted to say, for those who may not know, Yemaya is a West African goddess celebrated in the New World, in this part of the world, and is depicted as a twin-tailed mermaid, as Yemaya. When I was paralyzed, my two legs felt as one, sparking something that began below my waist, disconnected from my will. They floated on their own in a sea of perception, embraced everywhere, sensate and sinuous. I swam up from brokenness into dream, darting in 3 dimensions, as unafraid of up as down, as skillful with left as right. My great lungs fill with air, my long arms strengthen with each sure stroke as I plunge toward my sister, pink and black leatherback turtle who does not blink as we match motions and dance. And all around me, light from water crossing foremothers who did not fly, but swam and sang across hidden valleys and buried mountains as humpbacks do, all around the globe at once in a chorus of continuance, history sharing like right whales who survived their Holocaust, carry memory for hundreds of years, outlive generations of miscreants and murderers, unforgotten wounds, now mere tattoos and testament to what endures. And they told me, though land forsakes, consigns me to the chair, wheels me in the corner, beyond the edge, water boys and welcomes, and her wide board crinoline flippers gleam in dusk, sparkle at dawn, flare at midday, beckon remembrance as she sirens return, as Yemaya. Thank you. Our last reader this evening is John C. Mannone, who has poems in Wind Hover, North Dakota Quarterly, Poetry South, Baltimore Review, and others. He won a Dwarf Stars Award, was awarded a Horror Writers Association scholarship, a Jean Ritchie Fellowship in Appalachian Literature, and served as celebrity judge for the National Federation of State Poetry Societies. His full-length collections are Disabled Monsters from Lynette's Wings Press, Flux Lines from Lynette's Wings Press, Song of the Mountains, Middle Creek Publishing, and Sacred Flute, Iris Press. He edits poetry for Abyss and Apex and other journals. He's a professor of physics teaching mathematics in Tennessee. Welcome, John.
Thank you so much, Akua. My pleasure for being here and thanking the audience for coming to hear us. The first few poems I'm going to read are from the Disabled Monsters collection, and the other ones from other collections. But I wanted to say that the disabilities that I try to address are not limited to physical, but mental ones as well. Okay, so I want to start with hauntings in the Disabled Monsters collection. No rain to wash the heat away. Its waves buffet our faces, soak into our khakis, blending with the desert drab, pale structures, empty freedoms. My platoon in stealth combs the quiet buildings, empty rooms, hiding in the corner a mother, baby, snuggled in her hijab. For a moment, the Madonna and child, my wife and son in Minneapolis, St. Paul. I hear their whimpers, their prayers. I step toward them, feel the click wood against metal as if a poltergeist unlatched the pin. I fling myself on top the woman, her death muffled from a deafening grenade, shrapnel meant for her, carving my ears. Block and timber straddle us, my back wedges rafters, legs lever, arms undergird the beams, heave, outstretched to free the woman and her child. I couldn't hear the second click, the explosion that left my limbs in Fallujah, hands still gripping 2x4s. That dismembered house, its soul leaked out, inrushed with nightmares of urban bombs, the ghosts of men. It can't feel its family through the rubble, the concrete, the lumber debris. They'd rebuild the house, the haunting remains. Doctors said I'd be all right, but no one warned me of the demons hanging on ends of nerves, haunted by ghost pain, prosthetics for disembodiments, with no memory for fingers. I can no longer hear the beating of the distant drums or hearts, only the static hiss of its snare, your voice lost in gray noise. I am haunted by the sound of your voice. I am haunted by the touch of your breasts. The second one I'm going to read is the title poem. Thank you. The title poem of the collection, Disabled Monsters. And it was Ada Limon in one of her conferences that I was fortunate enough to attend that helped me put this into shape. It's a double metaphor. And I'll let you see that as I read Disabled Monsters. Outside, the world is cliche, deaf, dumb, and blind to vagaries of the mind, of the body. They stalk incessantly to ravage us. Don't we all feel like the living dead, sometimes because of our limitations? But even zombies do not stop to die. Not all vampires see eye to eye. Some are blind as bats. Do not be deceived. They hear your blood course through veins, the faint sound of air in your lungs. They're driven by the lust for blood. They'll hunt you down. When they catch you, and they will, they'll toy with you as cat and mouse. Their teeth do not need to see to cut your throat. You can pray, but it doesn't matter. They're blind to the crucifix and silver rosary, to the holy exorcisms. Their flesh, immune to sun, will not disintegrate to ash. Full moons might bring the werewolves, even the one deaf to his own howls, deaf to your screams. It feels the ground vibrate. Sharp clawed toes read the tremors of your heart. It smells your fear, closes in, sees you in the dark better than any Lon Chaney werewolf. There is no escape from its crushing your jugular. There is no escape from the ringing in your ears, from the deafening silence it will leave. You are deaf and you are blind, yet you feel these monsters press in. I will not be a victim, you say. Okay, then go ahead. Call the titular blade, the silver dagger, the vampire, or go get St. George, the longsword, the slant-eyed dragon. You can't hear the telltale heart beat against time, nor see Medusa try to turn your insides to stone. They are all cliches. They are all disabled monsters. And then I think this is the closing poem from that collection. It's called Light Blooms. I flashed through the dark space on a moonbeam, on a photon, like the one Einstein talked about in physics class, where time stands still at this speed, where mind and heart intersect with feelings, fact and faith emerge from chiaroscuro. No longer am I a child of the dark. I have grown into light, and I now can see, count each glimmer, touch each hope. Millions of beams pierce the darkness, each one lifting prayers into the infinities as scents of flowers rising. And I hear the stars sing as angels. I am not alone anymore. Thanks. So the next one is from my collection, Song of the Mountains. And this poem can be generally speculative, or it could even address individuals with autism. This is a open-ended type poem. It's called wait a minute. It's called Nature is Loud, but I don't hear her. All the stars are singing, every color I can feel, and I sing back my notes of grief. I ponder each tone. Let the music of the spheres subsume the deep, dark spaces in my life. Does she understand? Robert Frost asked the same question when he chose something like a star. It remained taciturn too. I do not understand the language of the stars, yet I should because I am stardust. Perhaps I should ask the wind. It is blue like the smile in your eyes, but I cannot discern the answer from the static hiss of leaves. I interrogate the ocean, sweeping wave after wave of questions in its rhetoric, and I am left on the beach, washed clean of answers. So I look up above the ocean, past the wind, beyond the stars, and listen for that small, still voice. And I'll close with the one from Sacred Flute. It's called Dreamcatcher, and it's wait a minute. I'm busy. The Ojibwe word for spider. Okay. Like the shape of circle across the sky that the sun and moon travel. Its hoop is fashioned from willow filled with webbing, the nettle fibers stranding rim. Before the sun rises to burn nightmares in the dawn, and Asibukashi, a spider woman, weaves a magical web to sift the restless thoughts while we all dream. Will she weave one for nations since the world is asleep to crimes against humanity? I weep. Can we not be as little children who are only frightened by the Sandman, the unknown darkness, or monsters lurking under the bed of their imagination? Is this not a better fear to conquer than the grown-up fears of humankind, which are real monsters that eat our freedom, but sadly are dismissed? And I need the Asibakashi to slip the soft, calm thoughts through the hole in the center of the web, to glide down the hawk feathers, that wisdom dwelling in the quiet night. I need good dreams to intoxicate my heart with images of you and magic of the moon glistening on the silvery web, moving ever so gently in the window in the tender breeze. Thanks.
Oh, John, that was beautiful. That
Thank
was
you.
so lovely. are better fears, you know. I wish for all of us to have none, but if there must be some, that they be better. And your humor. I I envy all of you who include humor. Humor is so hard for me and I love it so much. I enjoy the humor immensely. Thank you all who joined us for listening to us this evening. Happy Disability Awareness Day in our
Thank you for putting on
multiplicity.
this excellent event.
Yeah,
Oh,
thank
thank
you
you
so
for
much.
being here. Oh, thank you all for hearing the call and participating and sharing, because I feel enlarged, and hopefully all of our hearts have been enlarged by these words. Thank you to our audience for listening. Thank you to our audience who's not here with us right now, who will listen when we go. I want to say this. If you've written work at the intersection of the speculative and disability, I welcome reading and considering it for an anthology that I hope to publish at the end of this year, using this grant to spread the word and to provide a platform for others. So again, my thanks, blessings to all. Peace, farewell, be well. Good night. Bye.
Bye.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. This was lovely, and it was such an honor to hear everybody read and
Thank
to
you.
be included in such a great group.
You're wonderful, all wonderful.
Thank you.
All right, bye.